Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello. Hello, Dan. Got a few extras there. Hello, Heather.
Good morning.
Hello. Look at that. We've got a few people coming in. It's great. All right. Well, welcome to another week of Obvio Q&A. It's an opportunity to ask questions about how to use Obvio, what you might be playing around with. You could also ask questions about digital events, how you're using Zoom, things like that. And then, of course, sometimes we talk about production questions and things like that as well. We always like geeking out about those sorts of things. So you can ask the questions on the dashboard. There's a button there, ask question. And you can also type in the chat a little bit as well. We tend to keep that based around the topic that we're talking about. And then we change topics by going to a question from the question post form on the dashboard. So with that introduction done, have we got any questions there, Heather?
We have two. So one is from Amy, who I don't think is on the call yet. But she had a question in regards to her organization, the Animal Chiropractic Education, and her event mastermind. She says in that dashboard, when she clicks on the sponsors, it goes back to my list of organizations.
Yeah, so this is at the moment it's kind of expected an expected action, because when you're in your editor, which is the only way that it would be able to go back to the list of organizations, is that you're in your editor. So you're in the dashboard editor and you've clicked on the sponsors button, and that's gone, and it actually sort of takes you back out of the editor. So we want to work on this. One of the things we used to have it that the buttons used to do strange things as well in the editor. When you would click a join Zoom link, it wouldn't do that. It would reset and go back to the organizations list. We now have it so that when you click a button, it goes to the editor. What we want to do in this is when you click on the sponsors in the sponsors page in the editor, that it will take you to the sponsors page in the editor. It doesn't currently do that. So you need to follow that in the menu on the left-hand side to be able to get to the sponsors editor page, and then you can go through it. So it's always a reminder that it's best to test your attendee view by logging in as an attendee onto the dashboard and then testing it all there. I could be wrong, but my guess is that you were in the editor, and that's why it's gone to the organizations page. Whereas if you test as an attendee, then it should function as expected. So that's that one. Cool.
All right.
What's next?
So Muddy said, is it true there is a new join flow in place? Can you share more about it?
Yes, there is a new join process in place. So yeah, basically in the back end, it's bringing each person in as a separate user. So the problems that we've been having for some months now is that each person who joins through the Obvio admin technically is joining as the same user, as the same person in Zoom. And so that causes issues when it comes to doing chats and direct messages and things like that. That becomes an issue there. So we found a way, we've been working on a way around that to bring each person in, still without logging into Zoom, to bring each person in as a unique user. So Heather, I think you wanted to talk. You had an issue with this yesterday, it seems.
Yeah. Hey, Grant. Good morning.
Hey.
Or afternoon or evening or wherever you're at.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, here's what happened. So it was with a client. They'd actually use Obvio every week. So they're doing every week. So it was a client where she's a speaker. She goes into the back area, right? Goes into the Zoom areas, clicks on the Zoom areas, then clicks in their lower right to join the blue button. It's already opened. Another speaker had already opened it. And she clicks join. And it happened to me too when she said it because it didn't make sense. Click on join, the button goes to gray, and then it just spins and spins, like just kept spinning, would not open Zoom. So
Okay.
how I handled it just for the moment, because the event was starting and she was freaking out. She was using Safari and Firefox, and I said, "Well, let's try Chrome," and it worked, but it didn't make sense because she's been using either one of those, Firefox or Safari, one of those, for the last 4 weeks straight. So when I was talking to Muddy yesterday, and thank you again, Muddy, for calling, he was talking about that you guys are trying to create the separation.
Hmm.
Is that something only working in Chrome right now? I just want to give you that feedback because I know you
Thank you.
guys are
Yeah.
probably doing some changes. Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to do some more testing on that. So I don't know this. I don't know this for sure. A
Mhm.
possibility is that in the time that it took to go to Chrome and then to um, click the button in Chrome, that
Yeah.
some processes happened in the background that opened up and then allowed it to work. And so it was less about the browser and more
Mm.
about the timing. Either way, I'm sorry you had that experience because that's obviously not
Okay.
what we're looking for. Um, and so the
Sure.
testing that we had done, was working fine. But there's always going to be some of that, those different combinations or different timings that happen, that we weren't able to test. And so
Right.
that's what we want to get to the bottom of, is trying to see exactly what was going on there. There is quite a lot of complex steps that are happening to make this happen, creating users and
Sure.
licenses and all this sort of stuff that's happening in the background. Um, I mean, this morning, Heather and I have joined,
Mhm.
through that process, and you can see our names now in Zoom. We didn't change those; they were preset, and that's another one of these advantages that we now get is that the individual users that are joined as admin, um, are are coming in with their name, which we
That's
really
nice.
love. Yeah, it's really nice.
That's
So
really, yeah,
in
and I think it's a great feature because I agree with you. This client, like they're doing virtual live events every week. So um just to give you feedback what's happening. So they did say there was an issue with that. Now they're leaving right now chat completely open because it's virtual, but they live, but they want to eventually close that. And they were said they did have issues where the chat was going to the main speaker and he didn't want to see it, obviously, while he was speaking. So, but that may be fixed. I haven't asked to them what happened yesterday. And just to give you feedback, so it happened, I guess she was trying to use Safari, and then it happened on my side. And I was using Brave. And then I like I said, I didn't know what to do because I was virtual. They're in Texas and I'm in Florida. So I said, well, let's try Chrome, and it worked. I was just like, yay, because they were freaking out on me. Um, so yeah, just give you feedback. That's kind of what's
I
happening. It's
appreciate.
that blue button, and then it's just going gray. And they have the event today as well. So
Okay,
we'll see what happens. If there's any
okay.
issues, I'll let you guys know. But thank you, Muddy, and thank you guys for tapping in. It was just interesting, right? So I'm glad to know that you know about it and you're working on it, and just
Yeah,
want to give you that
to-
feedback.
totally. And yeah, and I'm not ruling out that there's a browser specific issue there. Um, but yeah, we're just trying to work out exactly what it was doing. So, um, I
A reason I think it was a
I'm just-
browser, and I kind of made it up in the moment, right? Is I know that sometimes with developers, they test things on one thing on one browser, and then they kind of move from there. That's usually how it goes. I kind of made that up in my head. So I thought, well, let's try it, Chrome. And thank God it worked, right? So I don't know. It worked on my side when I changed from Brave to Chrome. It worked, and so I figured, well, maybe I'll try it with them. And even though they were yelling at me like, why do we have to download Chrome? I'm like, just do it. So, but it worked, and I have no idea why. Maybe it was just like you said, it was just timing. But heads up. For now, we're gonna do Chrome until otherwise you guys let us know.
Sure. Yeah, look, I as much as we work on different browsers, and we want to make sure that our browsers are we've got support across all the browsers, all the big ones. There is kind of a de facto standard of Chrome, not only in the way that that we have developed, but also in the users. We can look across account data across all the attendees, and Chrome is by far the biggest, the most used browser across all the users. However,
Yeah.
we want to make sure it works across them all, and so we'll continue to do testing, but we'll keep on top of that. And yes, so the when you're talking about the chat, the chat going across to different people and trying to DM different people, that is fixed, right? Because when you come in as a unique user, then you're now able to DM like you used to be able to, and it all
Oh,
works fine.
great.
So yeah, so that was the big thing. There was sort of three key things that this fixed. That was the first one, is the chats being messed up. The second one was the name. Being able to name the person is really handy, particularly when you have a large team. As soon as they come in, you know who they are, rather than it all being the same name. And the third one is that you don't get the option to reclaim host, which is really good too. So now it will stay as the first person who started it will be the host, and that's often what you want. And now subsequent co-hosts are not able to take the host accidentally. It used to come up, that top bar would come up at the top, and sometimes you click the wrong button, and now you've reclaimed host, which then meant that the original host has no co-host or host abilities anymore, and so that can cause lots of problems on events. So it's helped with all of those issues.
Yeah.
But yeah,
They gave me some feedback on that, so that was great yesterday. So I just wanted to
awesome.
give you that. Yeah, and
No,
thank you for that.
really appreciate it.
So their names are coming up now, and then they're able to DM. And so does that mean also that they can then and I can't remember the feature, but it's basically have it so the participants cannot chat, but can only chat to the co-host or something like that. They can do that still, right? They haven't done it yet, but they want to do that. Is that possible?
Yeah. So there's an option within the in meeting, and you can say participants can chat with no one, hosts and co-hosts, or host and co-host, everyone, and then everyone and anyone directly. So you sort of have these four different options. So you can not allow DMs. And so, and on some of our events, we do that. We don't allow DMs. Some of the larger events, you can sometimes get some spammy sort of people in there that are going after people directly, and sending links and all that sort of stuff. And so that's a good option to have. But yes, that option is in there. It's at the bottom of the chat window pane, and there's the ellipsis, the three dots. You click that, and it gives you the option as to who you want participants to be able to chat with, and you can set it to just hosts and co-hosts. Yep.
Okay, great.
Cool.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you, Muddy, and thank you, Heather, for responding yesterday and helping me out on that. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Heather. Cheers.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
Grant, on that note, also, I just want to bring this up. When I was trying to see what was going on her ends, I usually use Chrome for all the Obvio stuff, but I use Safari. And something that I haven't noticed before is when I was launching the meeting, I got a pop-up block on mine, which I've never seen happen before. And with Safari, it's kind of hidden. Like with Chrome, you'll get like an actual like pop-up that will say that you have pop-up blocked, and mine was just in the address bar. And so I had to undo that, and that got me in. She had a different issue, it sounds like, than what I had, but that was just something I wanted to just let people know if you do have that. I don't know if it happens to all the other browsers, but that happened to me yesterday.
Yeah, okay, that's good to know as well, and that's something that we want to try to avoid, right? Like, as in, we're gonna hunt that down and not require that to be a pop up, if that's what's happening, and so that's what we want to explore. So, um, cool. Oh, Muddy's putting in questions for later. It seems. What what else have we got?
Um, so we're gonna go to Muddy's.
Hmm.
But congrats on hosting the SIGGRAPH show. Any high-level insights you like to share about producing a show with a remote field team?
Muddy's just crossing over some different shows and things. So Office Hours Global, I've spoken about before. It's how Blue and I met, um, and it's a daily show that talks about production, media production, and that sort of thing. And there's a large event on at the Los Angeles Convention Center at the moment called SIGGRAPH, which is Special Interest Group Graphics, and they've been going for 50 years, and they're all about graphics, lots to do with motion graphics and graphics in movies and games and things like that. And so we're covering it. Office Hours is sort of covering it with people on site, and then I was sort of hosting part of that show as well, um, yesterday, and then later today. And so it's pretty cool, because we have a team sort of spread around all over the place. There's a number of different countries of people that are involved working on a virtual show, um, and yeah, really really amazing what can be done. We use Zoom to connect us all in. There's some more complex systems that are being used on site, for talking about um, the the convention space, and as they walk around, we're able to talk to them, and we've got people watching on YouTube and in other places to be able to ask questions and things. And so, um, I think one of the things that we often talk about with events is that, whether it's in person or it's online, uh, sort of digital events, communication with your team, you kind of it rises and falls on the way that you can communicate, and so comms, being able to be connected with everyone, being able to talk to people no matter where they are, is really handy, and that's what's happened with that particular show. So if there was one thing I would say about learning, um, it just reinforces that again for me about the importance of comms. We use a system called Unity Intercom, and so I would encourage people to play around with that. We On some of the other events that I do, sometimes we just have a Zoom call that we set up as our comms, when we have our distributed team that might be all around the world. We just all sit in one, have a computer dedicated to that comms Zoom meeting, and then have it routed in a way that we can talk and things like that. Um, I can get a Unity Intercom, Unity Intercom if you search for that, but I can find the link. Heather. So yeah, and that just, it works on your phone or on computers, and you're able to have multiple groups and direct talk to people, or talk in party lines are called PLs. But yeah, comms is really important. Your event rises and falls on it. So, and look at that, Blue's joined us from jail. I think you're behind
Yes,
bars.
the bars are revealed by the sun. My bad.
Fair enough. Oh, it's nice that the morning sun's coming through like that.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, right in my eyes. I was sitting here thinking what I could do about it, but then you reminded me that the bars are actually shades.
Oh, there you go. You just have to twist it. See that change. Okay. Next
Oh my God,
question.
that's so much better.
Oh, there we go.
I
Look
can
at that.
see. I
It's
can
no longer in jail.
see. Well, and I'll just like echo what Grant is talking about in terms of the importance of comms. Clearly, this is more of a production conversation, but still, it's topical for us because, Grant, I haven't even told you this yet, but we just placed an order for a ClearComm system for in studio.
That's exciting.
It is until
Unexpected.
you see the bill. Until you see the bill, yeah.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love the Unity system. And the biggest problem is, for our techs, like the guys who are sitting around, like their phones die too quickly. So it's really great in a lot of cases, but it can be a little challenging. But the nice thing about it, they have the like Mac or PC app as well as the iOS or Android app. I like the fact that you can do the cloud hosted, so you don't even have to worry about hosting a server, which is nice.
Yes.
But yeah, we just we're upgrading our headsets in Office with 4-channel plus stage announce and program feed.
Oh, that's very
I'm
cool.
I'm kind of excited about that.
That makes me want to buy a panel just to have here so I can connect in with you. That's the thing with it that, that's the thing about ClearComm is like, it's the gold standard in comms. And the thing that they do is they have all these panels, all these different panels, and you can get wireless belt packs and all this sort of stuff. And then they have an app as well. And of course, with all the right subscriptions and all the extra money that you have to pay, you can use a thing called Agent IC, and then that's an app that you can have on the phone, and away you go. And I remember sort of working on events, and Blue, I think we were on one where you have all these people that are on site. They're all using normal comms panels, and they're able to do complex things and be able to talk to different groups and multiple groups and direct people and things like that. But then with it on your phone, Blue's off doing a Starbucks run and is still as well connected to the whole event as anyone else that's sitting at a desk or anything like that. And it's pretty cool when that sort of happens. And then when I chime in from the other side of the world, and it really makes no difference. I could be in the room next door or the same room, but I'm on the other side of the globe. It's pretty cool. So
comms are an epic upgrade. If you have a distributed team like Grant was talking about for the show that they're working on this week, or even if you have multiple people on site, we do stuff like inside of our Unity, our current headsets are single channel. So basically we have the current headsets tied into like channel 1 on the Unity system, and then we have channel 2 that is meant to be like an internal team only channel, and then we have channel 3 which is meant to be for client team that are remote, so that the clients don't need to bring all of their team here to just be on comm and communicate with us. They can literally stay home and work on their, in their home environment or in their home office or at the office, which is really nice. But the upgrade to the Unity system is going to allow our team who isn't, or the upgrade to the ClearComm system is going to allow our team who's not on Unity to have the same 4 channels, which is nice.
Yeah, changing.
And
Yeah.
is that what they use for big conferences, like huge, big 3 or 5 day, thousands of people conferences with the team? Is that what they use?
I mean, it depends. Sometimes they use that. If you go back to the tech tables at almost all conferences and you see people on headsets, they're not all using ClearComm, but ClearComm, to Grant's point, is definitely the gold standard. It also happens as the gold standard happens to be the most expensive. Like the system that we ordered is a 14 wireless headset system. And it is, just shy of $40,000. Like it's crazy expensive.
Wow.
And it's literally the last thing that I mean, it's not the last thing that I've purchased that I want in this studio, but it's awfully close. Like we focused on everything else before we did that. But the Unity system is a lot more reasonably priced. But for people who, for our guys who are, an audio guy who just basically sits behind an audio board, or a video guy who sits behind a video board for like 13, 14, 15 hours a day, it's hard to have them be on their phone for that. So you can go wired headsets, which is a little less expensive. But the downside to wireless or to wired headsets for me is when the guys walk away to grab a water or to grab, whatever from their desk, they're no longer in communication. So, if they're grabbing lunch or something like that, and all of a sudden the client needs something, you have to go find them. And with wireless, they just leave their headsets on, and it doesn't matter where they go, which is nice.
So real quick question on that, because I have this client and they're in Texas and I'm in Florida and they're wanting to do things. So is this something maybe I could look into the Unity? We won't go with the big one, but that if they're thinking about doing more virtual events and me running that virtually, would that be a Unity thing?
Yep, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, and let's see. Unity's cloud pricing is, how much is this? 5 users is, that's interesting. You should go check it out, but they have like annual subscriptions, they have a quarterly subscription, and they have weekly subscriptions. Like, so if you have just an event coming up, you can subscribe to it for just for 7 days, which is pretty cool. It's actually an interesting pricing. Or you can,
there's no equipment.
There's no equipment. It's all, I mean, you can tie equipment to it, but it's not necessary. So you can have it all be cloud-based, and basically it's an app on your phone. And when you talk to them, you just pull out or when you need to talk to them, you pull out your phone and you press talk, and it's real time. So like, apps like Voxer and like other voice-based apps are fine. But in my opinion, they're because they're not real time. If you need instant communication, they're not useful. The downside to the app-based intercom is if somebody misses it, there's no way to leave a message, right? So that's the flip side. If they don't hear it in real time, they'll never hear it. Whereas with Voxer or like WhatsApp or Messenger or whatever, if they don't hear it, they'll eventually hear it. But the real-time side of things struggles with that. Yeah. Grant's showing you what the app looks like, and it looks the same on a Mac or PC or on a phone. And basically you just press you click on the top which channel you want to talk on, and the bottom you click on which channels you want to listen to. And when you're ready to talk, you just press the talk button and hold it, and it's like instant live. It's it's a pretty cool application.
Oh, wow. Okay. I'll let them know. This is actually perfect. Perfect timing, guys. Thanks.
Yeah. And for like, just looking at their annual subscription, for 5 users, it's $350 for the year. For 3 users, it's $216. That's an odd number, but whatever. And you can go up to, 100 users, which clearly most of us don't need. And if you have that many users, you should probably be thinking about the self-hosted thing, which is what we do. And I'm guessing what the team that Grant is working with also does.
Yeah.
But the cloud hosting eliminates the complication of having to figure out the network stuff around that.
I've also got a guy that that self-hosts and sort of rents that out on a monthly basis as well. And so that's what I do on other events, is I'll just go to him and I'll say I need 50 people, 50 users, and he'll set it all up, and I just set up a little matrix of sort of a spreadsheet of who I want, what access they have, and you can do multiple groups. So that what you saw there was a page, and then you can go to multiple groups and have multiple pages, and there's lots, and you can have program feeds that you can listen to different things, and so there's a lot of things that you can do with it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I'll
pretty
let them
awesome.
know. This is good. And that's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Sure. All right. Next question.
So Muddy said, how could you use breakout rooms to create a speaker stage and a green room for a meeting with over 1,000 people, like when you have multiple rooms? Also, what return feeds would you typically provide so the speaker in the green room feel connected to the audience and can follow along with audience questions and guest speakers?
Yeah, so this can be done in lots of ways. I guess the way that I tackle this type of thing is where we have the speaker stage green room sort of rooms areas. I have that all within a dedicated Zoom meeting, and so no attendees are in that Zoom meeting. And so now that means that a lobby, I often call it the lobby, right? The main room that isn't a breakout, we call that a lobby. And sometimes we make that just the green room. And so then we have a breakout room as the stage, and maybe another breakout room as a tech check room, or tech problems that we can drag someone into and do some one-on-one tech help with a speaker, that sort of thing. And sometimes we have two, and I've done events where we've had 6 stages within a one Zoom meeting, and those sort of never do concurrent sessions. Let's just say that. But I had to do concurrent sessions for a particular event, and we had 6 of them going at once, and we were managing it all within one with one room, with one meeting, and it was working great. Of course, that is until you have one co-host right at the end of the show who closes all breakout rooms, and then all of your stages all sort of can sort of fold in on each other, and that's a real mess. But so that's that part of it, is having all the speakers in there. What I've done recently too is I've then provided gallery views from 3 or 4 different of the other meetings, and put that into that stage. And so now my speakers can see a gallery view from each one of those rooms within a gallery view of their own. And so that way they haven't had to run multiple screens for themselves. They've just got their own single screen. And that has worked quite well. That's not as good as having big TVs and a big wall of screens where you can really see the gallery view and see the individual faces and read their names really easily and things like that. But if you're having a remote speaker just coming in from home, and all they really have is a laptop and cameras and things, then this was a good way of doing it, is being able to send that gallery view back in. And so now I had multiple gallery views in that speaker Zoom, in that breakout room. And so they could see people moving around. So then I sort of try to manage what they can see in that grid of the 7x7, the 49. And one of the things that trying to do more of, particularly with older audiences, is explaining how the stop video button works, because there's a lot of people that will throw something over their camera, or they'll be sending a black image, which is, from their point of view, they're just trying to not be on camera. Fine, yeah, like what Muddy's doing now. And that's fine, except that it ruins that gallery view, right? And so I'd rather stop them. And as a host or co-host, you can force someone to stop their video, but they can't enable it again. They can't enable it there on their own, which is different to muting, right? You can mute someone and then they can unmute themselves again, because there's an option for that. So that's not ideal either, right? You don't want to go through and just be stopping all these black images, because they may want to come back on, and ideally we want people to have their cameras on and to see those faces. And so it's housekeeping, right? It's right at the start, talking all about that. Do you know where to stop video? We want you to have your face, your face on the camera. It's great for everyone. It's great for you. But if you have a reason not to, and you don't want to, then use the stop video. Don't cover your camera. It's also a better experience for them as well because it's freeing up bandwidth on their end. So anyway, that's one of the things I think of is when I'm particularly sending those gallery views into the speaker Zoom is thinking I want to have 49 good looking faces, right? I want to like not ceilings and sometimes you get these weird views of that people are sending. So it's something to consider as well. Does that cover what you're thinking of, Muddy? Nice. All right. Next question.
Heather said, my client wants to upgrade his subscription to the next level. We've added approximately $400 for client check-ins. Can we apply this to go to the next level? What is a way to clear out the people that no longer are registered?
Can I ask that? So my client's doing these event every single week and they're running ads and they're free events. And so we've had to add like $100 to keep because we've gone over the number of checked in, but they're going to keep doing what they're doing is they're rolling over people. They're kind of rolling people over. So they just want to go ahead and upgrade. That's the first thing. I think we've added, $400 or $500, just kept adding for increasing it. So that was the first thing is, can we apply that just to go to the next level? And then the second thing is we also have people that, that on our side, the CRM side, they don't want us to contact them anymore. So they're do not disturb. Is there a way to I don't know, is there a way that I can download those people on an Excel spreadsheet and somehow figure out who those people are and pull those out of Obvio? 2 questions. Make sense?
Are you taking
Sorry,
this,
I was
Blue?
distracted by something. Sorry. The second half of the question, I feel like I need to actually have paid attention to. Can you ask the second half one more time?
Yeah, sure. So what's happened is because we're doing paid ads, so it's a free event, and they're just every single time someone opts in, really, they're getting into the Obvio system, right? And then some people don't show up, or they're asking us to don't contact us anymore, which is fine because it's a cold lead. So we can download the do not disturbs from our CRM, which is Go High Level, and I'd like to be able to remove them from Obvio. And I'm trying to figure out a way in my head to do that because the issue is right now we have so many people inside of Obvio. We're at 3,000, and that's why we're having to pay and pay and pay and pay to keep the numbers up.
Yeah, so there's a couple things for you. Number one, Go High Level integration is actually live, so you can try using that.
Yay.
Now, what I will warn you on is we have tested it, but I have not run an event on it. So I've done testing with at least one user, actually, for an event that's coming up. But Sage doesn't have any clients who use Go High Level, so we haven't had the opportunity to test it in a live environment. But from all of our testing, it's working as expected. The way it works is when you go into an event and you create or you click on the integration, the system Obvio will provide you with the tag that you need to apply to your attendees. So it's a little bit different. That all of these integrations work a little differently because of how the CRMs work that we integrate with. So in this particular case, we are having to provide the tag ID or the tag name to you, and then you have to then apply that tag to all of your attendees. So here's the cool thing. Once that's done, then it works the same way, right? You can define the custom field where you're going to store your your URL, and then you
Mhm.
can apply tags on actions, right? So you can apply tags on check-in, on customer created or attendee created, and on button clicks, as well as waiver
Oh,
signs. So
that's
all of
great because
that's
it awesome. Sorry.
yeah, so all of that
That's
stuff works exactly the same. And then how the system works is anybody who has that attendee tag is added to the system automatically, and anybody who has that tag removed winds up being deleted from the system automatically. So for you, you guys will, if I was you, how I would do it is I would have your internal tags that are like, this is my week 1 tag attendee, this is my week 2 tag attendee, my week 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, all of the 52 weeks that you're going to be doing this event. But then when you want them to actually be in Obvio, you apply the tag that we provide, and that will import them into Obvio. And when you want to remove all of those people, you just remove that tag, and that'll remove them from Obvio. So that'll be your easiest process.
so so you're saying, I'm just walking through this in my head. So if we're doing this, let's say every single week's the same event, then you're going to have event name week 1, event name week 2, like we're going to create
Well,
those
no,
tags.
no, aren't you? That's internal. That's your tags. You're
Yeah.
planning on only having one event, right? So you don't have to recreate this event every week.
Oh yeah. Sorry. When I say event, yeah. So inside of Obvio, it's one event. So it's,
Correct.
yeah, but I'm saying in my head, we're doing the same event every single week or every other week, whatever they're doing.
Right, but you're probably your client is likely tagging people with, or if they're not, I mean, if it were me, I would
I do all
be.
the tagging. So I'm building out all the workflows for them. It's me.
Okay, so if it were me, I would be tagging them for each event, right? So that you can go back and you can, like, if you don't, if all you're doing when somebody signs up for it, regardless of what week it is just applying a single generic attendee tag, then anytime you want to go back, if somebody ever says, hey, listen, can you how many attendees did we have for 3 weeks ago, for the event 3 weeks ago? If you don't have a tag specifically for that event inside of Go High Level, you can't pull it up. So if it were
go ahead. We are doing that. We are adding event name, tag, and date. That's how we're doing it right now. Yeah.
Great.
But we can't see who is attended. We can't see that on our side yet.
Well, and this will give you that, right? Because you can add the checked in tag. And then anybody who, now that checked in tag is going to be generic for the event, but you can couple, right? You can say, okay, who has the event 1 tag and the checked in tag? And you can probably make an assumption that they're together. Now, the only thing where the stats may be a little off is if somebody signs up for 2 events because they saw the ad this week and then they see the ad again in 5 weeks, right? And they attend, and if they only attend one of them, it doesn't matter if they attend 1 or 2, there's only one generic checked in tag unless you change that every single week, which you could do in Obvio.
Okay, I see where you're going. Right. So it's like event name, date, and then checked in date. Add the tag. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, or not. Yeah, event, not necessarily date, but just checked in.
Checked in. Okay. So with the new Go High, what I'm hearing you say is with the new Go High Level integration, we'll be able to see who actually is checked in inside of Go High Level that we can do marketing wise. Like, you attended, so glad you're here, and here's the offer.
You set it up. Yeah, if you set it up correctly, you should be able to. Basically, because once they hit the dashboard, you can tag them as checked in Go High Level using the integration, and then you can then customize your marketing based on that, assuming you can do that in Go High Level, which I think you can.
Yes, we can. So, like, right now, like I said, just to kind of give a big picture, they're running ads. So like last week they spent like $7,000. So now we have a total of, let's say one event it's like 3,000 registered names. That's just opt-ins. That doesn't mean they've all showed up. But every week we're kind of pulling them back in, like, hey, you missed last week, here's another one, or whatever. So that's kind of the problem. I'm looking at Obvio. We have this one event, and it looks like we have 3,500 people. But of course, as you know, not everyone shows up. And so
Yeah,
that's
you're not
where we're
doing. Are
dealing with.
you bringing them, Heather? When somebody opts in, are you bringing them in every week now indefinitely, or like, because I could see that being incredibly annoying and
Yeah, right
lead to
now
a
it's
lot of
indefinitely.
opt-outs?
That's why I'm trying. Yeah, exactly. Right now it's indefinitely, and that's why I'm trying to figure out how to undo that or clear it out
Well, that's not an
so that
Obvio
we're,
problem, though. That's not an Obvio problem. That's your marketing problem, right?
yeah.
So so problem number one, or question number one for you is, once they opt
Mhm.
in, can they come at any point? Like, will you continue to send them email reminders for each
Yeah.
event for each of the next 52 weeks?
No, we're dropping them off after 3 events. We're just dropping them off.
Great. So then at the same time that you drop them off after 3 events, that's the time when you would then remove the Obvio event tag, which will remove them from Obvio. So they'll basically, everybody, what wind up happening in your event at any given point, you should have all the attendees in your event for the last 3 weeks.
Right. Okay. So inside of once I figure out who the people are who we're going to pull out from Go High Level, can I then that's so let's say I have 100 people that we're going to pull out. I have them in Go High Level, identified them. How do I then go to Obvio and pull them out? How does that work? Is there a way to sync that up to pull that out?
You don't go to Obvio, you go to Go High Level and you remove the attendee tag for the event from
Okay.
those 100 people.
Can I do that now given that we're just doing through Zapier, or is that just moving forward?
You can do it through Zapier, but if you were going to do it through Zapier, you would do it a little differently.
Okay.
In Zapier, what you would do, or for Zapier integration, you would use the delete function, the delete attendee function, and you would apply a tag inside of Go High Level, like delete attendee or whatever you want to call it, that triggers the zap that has one action in it, which is to delete the attendee that comes across. And then you delete the attendee from Obvio using the zap. So you could do it either way, but the Go High Level integration is going to be easier.
Right. Well, I'm just talking about right now, since we have it zapped. So we have to do that first. And then moving forward, once we do the integration of Go High Level, is it moving forward or does it retrograde? I guess my point. That once we do the integration.
It's based on the attendee tag that you have to apply. So anybody who you apply the attendee tag to, it will bring them in. The other thing, so if I were you, what I would probably do is I would delete the steps that I would go through is I would turn off the zap, your Zapier integration. Then I would go into the Obvio event and I would clear the attendee list. Using attendee tools so that you delete everybody from Obvio. Then I would set up the integration with Go High Level, which will then bring in all of those attendees who you apply the tag to for the last 3 events into Obvio, and then you'll be kind of starting fresh.
Got it. Okay, perfect. That's great. All right, wonderful. Thank you. And my client wants to upgrade. I just wanted to ask you about that too.
Yeah, if you want to are they on Pro and they want to upgrade to Enterprise?
Yeah, they're on Pro now, and it's just I feel like they've already. I think we've added another. I think $400 or $500. We just keep just dinging it because of what happened. So
yeah, so if you just go ahead and upgrade inside of Obvio and then reach out to the team, we'll issue a refund for anything that would have not been required if you were on Enterprise retroactively for the last 3 months.
Okay, that'd be great. I'll tell the client. Okay, this is
Which
great.
means you some of that you may have had to pay even on Enterprise, right? Because Enterprise doubles your attendee capacity. But if you're at 12, 13, 1,400 people, then you still would have had to pay something. It's just it would have been less. So we'll support you in working that out.
Okay, great. Well, thank you for this. Congratulations, Go High Level. I'll have my team work on it and myself. So thank you for this. This is awesome.
Cool. Yep.
All right. So Pam asked, does the remote speaker need a camera? Can you go over camera use for a remote speaker?
If you want your attendees to see that remote speaker, they're going to need a camera. And I don't mean that in a negative way. You may not want them to see the speaker, and they may just be doing like a webinar style presentation where they're sharing screen and you don't need them to see their face. Then they don't need a camera.
Yeah, and perhaps you might also be asking about, do they need an external camera versus just what's in their laptop? Is there a big difference? And I think there is a big difference. I mean, you can see the cameras that Blue and I are using. Like, you can see that there's a quite a big difference in how it looks compared to a webcam that's in a laptop. But if you're going down that sort of line, then often lighting makes a big difference. You can make a webcam look quite good if you have good lighting in your room. So, and conversely, if you have a great camera and terrible lighting, it's just going to look terrible. But yeah, to the point of, I think it's great to be seen. The thing that we are doing with these events, and we continue to do, is we want to see people get connected. And so we want to see, excuse me, you want to see the audience, and we want to see the speakers. And so it's more than a live stream then, right? So a live stream was, they had a camera on a speaker, and then away they went, they talked and they shared a screen or whatever, and away it went. Whereas now that we see the audience, it feels different, and there's the opportunity to have breakout rooms and things like that, where you're engaging with the audience so much more, and it's more of a community. It's not just about content. So if that's the case, then yeah, being able to connect through what people see, I think is really important. So yes, camera's good.
So could you go over what camera you would use, or what would the setup be for a camera for people, for speakers?
That's a religious topic when we start talking about what cameras to use. So look, yeah, there's webcams, and I tell you that there's I haven't got it in reach right now, but there's a Insta360 link, it's called, which is a great little webcam, and it has a PTZ like pan tilt zoom little part on it, and it can even track you around the room. So as just kind of a step up from using what's built into a laptop, for example, or what's built into your computer, going to something like that is a big step up. It's a 4K camera. It'll track you, and it's quite clever. So so there's that. Then once you go beyond that, then you're now talking about cameras that have HDMI and out, and then you're connecting it into some sort of capture device. And we recommend A10 minis. A10 minis means that you can have 4 cameras, and you can switch between those cameras. Now you can just see how the whole thing just gets bigger and bigger, but so does the opportunities for what you're doing, and so you have one camera. And so Sony's Z10 or something we've talked about a little bit as an option. I'm using a Canon M50 Mark II. So there's all these kind of DSLR cameras that you can put really nice lenses on, and you can get some really good images from that. And then having that going into an A10 means that you can switch between different cameras. You might have an over the shoulder, or a shot on a whiteboard, or there's lots of those different options. But yeah, we talk a lot about there's lots of questions that we get about this sort of stuff. People saying, well, what camera do I get? And it really does depend, because there's lots of different brands, particularly Sony camera and Canon are big in this, that you might compare. But there's lots of great YouTube clips about what camera to choose, doing Zoom meetings, what to use, and I'd encourage you to do a little bit of that sort of research, and trying to see what it is that you like. seeing some Zoom meetings or things that you're doing, and asking people what sort of setup do you have, because I like the setup that you've got, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, does that help? No.
Yes, absolutely. That helps. Thank you. I just
Awesome.
unmuted. I had one quick other question. We were talking about high level and go high level. What is that? Is that the same thing? Because I recently found out about high level, which I thought was, I'm not really sure what it is, but is high level, which I put in the chat, is that the same thing as go high level?
I believe they renamed, didn't they, Blue? Is that right?
I have no idea. When I do a search for
It
high
is the
level
same.
CRM, the only thing that comes up for me is go high level. So I do think they're the same.
Yeah.
They're the same, Pam. People just it's like a, it's like acronym, high level. So it's actually gohighlevel.com is the name of the CRM, and people just call it GHL or high level. It's just kind of a short name for it. It's the same thing, Pam.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Marty,
You're welcome.
chime in on that.
Yeah, high level is the name of the product. The URL was probably taken, so they got go high level. And so go high level is how you find them, and that's how people talk about it generically, because that's their website, go high level. Technically, the product is called high level.
Gotcha. Thanks for special comments from Muddy there on the boundary.
Well, I have one more quick question. What does go high level do for you in Obvio?
That's probably the wrong question. It's more a function of what does go high level or high level do for you in your business, right? And high level is essentially just another CRM or tool to help you manage your business, similar to Keep or HubSpot or ActiveCampaign or any of the other multitude of services that are out there that do the same thing. Generally speaking, all of these tools allow you to email your attendees, they allow you to build web pages, and they allow you to sell stuff. And some of them have other bells and whistles that go along with them. And Go High Level is one of those products that does that. So they're all pretty much, they all essentially cover similar functions, and some of them have certain specialties that they call out to make themselves unique in the marketplace. So it's just another CRM that you can use to run your business. And as it's one of those things, Obvio chose to integrate with high level natively, so that if you're running your business on high level, you can easily, and you're selling your attendee tickets on high level and so on and so forth, you can easily integrate and import your attendees into Obvio without having to use Zapier or manually import your attendees. You can just use the native integration that we've built, which functions very similarly to the other native integrations that we've built, like MailChimp, Keep, HubSpot, ActiveCampaign, and now High Level.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Muddy said gamification is a key differentiator for Obvio. What are some of the core ways you use gamification for Obvio events? Any creative ways you have used them?
I think probably generally speaking, we tend to have fallen into, I don't want to say a rut, but a process with gamification at Sage. We tend to, when we use gamification, we reward points for as many things as we can. If the client has a speaker page, we turn on the ability to get points when you visit the speaker page. We turn on points for checking in. We turn on points for clicking buttons. We turn on points for downloading resources, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then we generally pair those points in a couple different ways throughout the course of the event. So one, we'll reference back to those points when we're doing prizes or giveaways. And oftentimes how I've fallen into a path of doing it is, I'll pick a random number, or, maybe I'll get Barry to pick a number between 1 and 100 or something along those lines. And then whoever is, let's say she picks 78. I then say, I go to person who's 78 on the leaderboard. I unmute that person if they're present. If they're not present, we pick another name. If they're present, we unmute them, congratulate them, and ask them to pick a number, and then give them usually a different range. So that's kind of how we do, rewards for, or how we utilize the leaderboard throughout the event. And then at the end of the event, there's generally speaking a prize for like the top. How we generally do it is we'll do a prize for like the top X number of people. That is like an additional Q&A call. So top 50, top 100, depending on how big the event is, top 20 if it's a smaller event. And then on top of that, we'll also tie in, something for the top 5 usually, and maybe something for the top. So that's how we're utilizing it. One of the more unique ways that I've seen it used as well. Oh, and incidentally, we also, when they answer questions inside of forms, we provide points, because you can do that as well. So we're really utilizing as much as possible, including using gamification with image entries. Right. So, or the image waterfall feature. So when somebody submits an image that gets approved, they get points for that, etc. So those are the things that we're kind of, basically when we use it to its fullest. And then I've had some clients, we have one client who basically, they want to see specific engagement. So they will only do points for doing a certain thing. In their particular case, it's answering a form, right? So they don't do any points for anything except answering a form. And they have a certain number of forms on the dashboard. And then what they do at the end of the event, I've seen them tie something along the lines of this, like, okay, we have 27 questions that have to be answered over the course of the event. We're giving you 10 points for every question you answer. So the max number of points you can get is 270. And then they'll do something along the lines of, if you participate fully, and we'll consider participate fully 25, answering a minimum of 25 out of the 27 questions, then you will get a bonus of some sort after the event. I've also seen people tie it into some sort of charitable contribution, where it's like, okay, anybody who has, using that same example, anybody who has 250 points or more will contribute $100 on your behalf to this specific charity. And we'll do that for, everybody who participates fully. So I've seen a couple of things like that I think are interesting. Those are just a couple of ideas that I've seen that I've thought were cool.
Yeah, I would just add that I think that when we first sort of spoke about gamification and on Obvio, and I was so like, oh, really? It seems like a just a bit of a tacky thing to do, And but what I have found over and over and time again is how much people really enjoy it, and people really love seeing their name on the leaderboard and finding all the ways to get extra points, and it really does drive engagement on the dashboard. There's no question about it, and so we do find, particularly with sponsored booths and things like that, downloading resources, going to a sponsor's booth, that sort of stuff. It works because people are looking for how they can get extra points. And so they start clicking around. They find all the little places and the different throughout the dashboard to get those points. So it's worth it. It's worth doing. Cool. What's next?
So Sharon posted in here that she was sent a form, which I gave you a link to in Slack, about the newest around the Zoom and the possible direction it's going. She's researching other platforms for businesses and events, and we're wondering what you were thinking about this and if you could offer any insight.
Yeah, so I have done some research on this before this morning. Zoom has got themselves into a bit of a PR problem with the way that they announce their terms and services, particularly, and this is what's really important, is it's around the AI features of things tied to meeting summaries. So you may have seen that that Zoom has offered this for a little while. Is these AI Zoom summaries, and so it's essentially taking a recording. It's totally for corporate business meetings, right? Like short business meetings, and it processes it and it says here are the action points and whatever. It's trying to be all super clever. In order for them to have the rights to be able to go through all of that, they had to update the terms of service specifically around this. Now, I'm not defending them in any way, and I think there's possibly more to the story. What I know is what I read in their response blog around this. What's happening is people are taking bits of the updated terms of service out of context, and it makes it sound like they can take your recordings and everything, and they can do whatever they want, and they can post it, and they can, all this stuff, and that's not the case. So the ownership of the recording still lies within the user, and so but the way that it reads out of context when it's not, the context is within meeting summaries. And let me just say, at least at the moment, there is no reason for us to be turning on meeting summaries. That's not helpful for events. It's just not something that we need, and so it's not enabled. And it's something that they reiterate, that for all their AI, they do not use audio and video or chat content for training their models without opting in. And on all the accounts that we use, we are not opting into that. And so that's where that stands at the moment. So they're sort of trying to backpedal a little bit on some of the legalese that they had, because it scared people off a lot. But it's not in their best interest to be trying to be sneaky in how they're accessing people's content. That's not a win for them. So hopefully that I'm not concerned to be continuing to use Zoom for our events. We still believe that it's the best product for what we're doing in the way that it's working, and am not concerned by the latest kind of media attention. Some of these different articles and people talking about boycotting and whatever. That's not at all my understanding or take on it. So, was the person who asked the question, was it Sharon? Was it Sharon still here?
I don't believe that they're
No.
on here.
Okay, that's cool. That's all right. They'll be able to watch the recording, that we have the rights to be able to watch the recording. Cool.
Okay. So Dorita asked if she can use someone else's Stripe.
She's probably talking about Marketplace, and the answer to that question is yes, but it's organization based.
Yeah.
So each organization can only have one Stripe account associated with it. So if you have a client that wants to do an event and they want to use Marketplace, and you want it to be their Stripe account, you need to create an organization for that client and then create the event within that organization. If you've already created the event, but it's in your organization, you can create a new org. And then there is the possibility to move an organization from an event from between two organizations that you own. On the events page, there's a little 3 dots under the event, and you can move it from the event from your current organization to another organization that you are the owner of. So yes, it's possible.
Perfect. And then we have a question from Pam. She has a question about the system internet speed to run an event. Just moved to a non-fiber 300 Mbps. What internet speed or setup plugged directly into your system is advised to run an Obvio event? Is there a video or training on this?
Yeah, so generally for Zoom, in fact, if I was to look right now, I can tell you real numbers. I'm sending 3 megabit per second up, and it's only using about 1 or 2 coming down. So generally, what we use to calculate is you want about 10 up for each computer that it's sending a Zoom signal, and like 10 down for each one that is receiving a gallery view. And so a gallery view that might be up to 49 actually starts using about 4 or 5 meg per second. So it's not a lot. And so okay, yeah. So you've gone from a gigabit down to 300. And if you really are getting 300, then you'll be totally fine. It depends on what you get up, whether that's like an asynchronous, whether it's 300 down and 300 up, or if it's smaller up. But it's not going to be less than 10. So I think you'd be fine there. So that's the general calculations, and then you kind of want plenty of headroom is really the goal. And you're thinking also about what else is your computer doing. You kind of want to minimize other things your computer's doing. No, not balanced upload and download. Yeah, right. So it's different. But you'll still have plenty of upload. But you just want to think what else is happening on your network at the same time. And so if you've got other people in the house that are on Netflix or whatever, it can have an effect. Probably with 300 down, you're okay, but it's still how well your network can manage that traffic. So that's the type of stuff you want to think about. Of course, remember to be always using a cable and not on Wi-Fi. No matter how good your Wi-Fi is, you want to have a cable connection, an Ethernet cable directly to your main computer. And you sort of want to optimize all of that system all the way through to just make sure it's rock solid. It's the first thing. It's this is a priority thing I say often, but I'll just say it quickly again. It's internet first. The next thing is audio. So you want to have really good audio before you're thinking about anything else. So it's internet, audio, and then it's lighting. Lighting's more important than the camera because it'll make a big difference. And then camera, and then you want to think about the atmosphere, the area that you're in, so it's not busy with kids walking past and distractions or whatever. And it's also a nice quiet space that works well. And so if you can get those 5 priorities in order, you're in a good spot for doing these events. Cool.
Thank you for that.
No worries.
And then we have a question from Karen. She said, I'd like to assign my VA tasks in Obvio. Where might I find out how to make that happen?
Yeah. So what you're really talking about, or what I think you're probably talking about, is how do you give your team members access, whether it's a VA or full-time team member or volunteer, it doesn't really matter, but how do you give a team member access to Obvio to be able to make changes and edit your event? And there's 2 things that you have to do. Number 1, you want to go into your organization So this is the Sage Event Management Organization. So you want to go into your organization, and then up here where it says your organization name and has a little drop down arrow, you want to click on that and click on team. And the first thing you're going to want to do is go to the roles area, because you probably don't have any roles inside of your account. And you want to create a role. And you could call it, editor or whatever, but let's just call it, I'm going to call this one VA. Okay. And then what you do is you need to go across the different elements that you can give them access to, right? Like, do you want your VA to be able to create events? Probably not. Do you want your VA to be able to change settings for your event? Event settings encompasses everything under the event settings page, Zoom areas. Oh man, I'm trying to remember what all of the things they are, but this is some of the more technical stuff. Event statistics, do you want them to be able to see stats? Event design, this is everything under the features and design submenus. Do you want them to be able to see the emoji page? Do you want them to be able to start areas, start rooms, to see recordings, to update your attendees, to check in attendees, to access the marketplace, to be able to send broadcasts? Do you want them to be able to update team? And do you want them to be able to purchase add-ons? Now, what I would say is probably, good for somebody who's, let's say they are working on your dashboard and they're also importing attendees into the platform, is I would go with like event settings. Statistics is up to you, but I usually just go ahead and check that. Event design, the emoji page, start areas and rooms. I would probably skip recordings unless you want them to be able to download recordings and upload them to something. Update attendees, check in attendees, and then I would just leave the rest blank. Unless you want them to be able to update additional team members or invite additional team members or send email broadcasts or SMS or update your marketplace pages. If you do want those things, then you would just check box like that as an example. So now once you have your role set, and the role is a generic set, right? So you could make a role for individual people, but usually what we do is we name it as like, editor, or you see this admin, tech check, check-in, etc. Now, once you have your role created, you go to members and you add a team member. And you click on the drop-down arrow, you select the role you just created, you type in your person's email address, and you click invite. And once you do that, your VA will get an email from Obvio inviting them to set up an account. And once they log in, if they don't have any other organizations that they're tied to, they'll actually when they log in, they'll automatically go to your organization if they only have the one organization that they're connected to. If they help people with others, hold on one second. If they help people with other events, they may see the organization page as well. So that's how you do it. And then from there, they can make all the changes that you want. Now, in terms of assigning them tasks, that's probably like a task manager of some sort, but that's how they would actually go about executing on the tasks.
Okay, I thank you very much. I believe I created a role and added a member, but he never got the invitation. Or it's been a blur because I'm doing a lot. But I think it
Do you
came to
remember
me.
do you remember what your organization name is?
Like my business name? I think so.
Well, inside of Obvio, do you have an organization? Do you remember what that's called?
I think it's called Fourth Watch Faith. I know I found the page you were on, but I also am working on a Chromebook, Microsoft Chromebook, and it feels buggy or something. Everything, all the dots don't connect.
Well, again, the Chromebook is probably more of a religious discussion than anything else.
Okay.
So what I'll say is it looks to me like this is your organization. So, and under your team, is that the correct email address?
I can't even see it, but I mean, literally, I'm right now on a phone. Yes.
That's the correct email address?
Yes. I put myself in at another email as well, just to see how it worked.
Well,
but
yeah, you wouldn't have put yourself in. You show up automatically as the owner of the account, but this is the email address that has not received the
right,
invite.
right.
Okay.
And it may be that I set it up at my domain incorrectly. Because that's what I
Perhaps.
think happened. I think I got his email.
Well, I can't speak to that, but if he has access to the email address jahan@fourthwatch.faith, right?
Mhm.
If he has access to that email address, then he would have gotten that. Now, if he doesn't have access to that email address and that email automatically forwards to ziggieZmarley@gmail.com, then you would have gotten it. But I don't know how your email is set up. But that, assuming
Right.
that's
I have.
the correct is.
Say again. Sorry.
I was just going to say, assuming that email address is correct, he should have received the invite. What I will say to you is you don't have a lot selected within the roles. So you have a
Right. I
John
didn't know if I
M.
was going the right way. Yeah. I just
Yeah,
was lost.
got it. So yeah, I mean, you can just like, if you're going to use you can use the John M. Nacorda. It doesn't really matter. But the other thing that I'll say is when you sent him the invite, you didn't define the role, which doesn't matter all that much. You can do it once he actually accepts the invitation.
Okay.
But you do want to, yeah, he's already invited. Okay. But you do want to make sure you assign the role or he won't be able to do anything. But you can't change the role he's been assigned to until he actually accepts the invitation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I will check what I have done on the other end. Thank you.
No worries.
And I'm in California, so
Well, thanks for
sorry.
getting up early with us.
Thank you for having this.
Yeah, no worries.
Our next question is from Dorita. She's saying that she's having trouble with a broadcast email. This is for organization reframe with the slug reframe.
So similar to what she just said, I've been inviting someone to the team so that I can make that email be the one that the confirmation email comes from, and they're not getting it. It's just not going to them. And we've tried it now for about 2 or 3 weeks. So we've ended up putting in someone else's name. That works. But this other one, they can't accept it. So then I can't move them to the next level and make them, on the team. And then subsequently the email address that we want all of the correspondence to come from.
Okay, so the email that correspondence come from has no relationship to team members. Those two things are completely disconnected. So the email address that you send emails from does not also have to be a team member. So those are
weird, but
it's
weird, Blue.
things.
Well, it wouldn't do it before, and I think I have to be clear about what the email was, but I wrote in and I and I did have to make that person a team member. So I created roles that make sense. And then it worked. I was able to put them in, I was able to invite them to the broadcast side. But before that, it would not send the email to, it wouldn't do it. And so it did work on someone, and maybe that just coincidentally worked that way. But I do have an email under Reframe that it won't send them a request.
Okay. Can you share your screen, Dorita? Because I can't see a couple of
I don't,
things that I'd like to see.
oh, I don't have it up. I'm on my phone. It's in my DO Hatchet, and it's one of the organizations is called.
I see the Reframe. Yeah, I see the Reframe organization, but unless I'm logged in as you, I can't see the team, some of the team settings. Which email address is it that you're trying to create that is not working?
Is it called Inspire? It's got an invitation that hasn't been accepted. And we've resent it.
Insiders at
Insiders.
simply5.com.
Insiders. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I'll say is, generally speaking, I'll resend that invitation for you. So something you guys can do, if somebody isn't getting an invitation, is you can click on the three dots and you click resend invitation. And that will do exactly what it says, right?
Yeah, I've done that about 7 times. Yeah.
Okay, so then what I would be doing is I would be checking spam folders and so on and so forth, because generally speaking, what I'll say is this is not something that we have made any changes to since it was originally released. So there shouldn't be any problems with those emails getting to you. Now, their email is a funny thing because sometimes there are spam filters or catches in place at the corporate level. If simply5.com is using a mail server that is custom, they may be limiting inbox communication somehow. So I've seen our emails from time to time get caught in something custom. It's pretty rare. And the fact that Tyler Plant was able to receive his email makes me think that that's probably not the problem. And then my next question would be, is insiders at simply5.com receiving emails? Like, can you just send an email to that person randomly? So that would be a question.
All right, I'll try that one. So we had trouble with Tyler getting his at first. So we've changed people 3 times because we weren't able. So it could be their domain. It could be that Simplify, because he never got it. We would be on the phone together and I'd resend it and we'd wait and wait and wait, and he never got it. So then Mofita was the one, she never got it. So that's why when I wrote in on it, I think the suggestion was to make her a team member and then also send her the invite, and then it worked. So we really wanted the emails to come from insiders. So I put it in there, but I've sent it 3 times. We've been on the phone with them. So that's just, could be that.
I think I'll submit this to our team to see if we can, if we can see logs to see if there's any issues. But like I said, the team member page is not connected to the settings, the organization settings where you can set up who emails come from. They're just not, they have no relationship to each other.
Okay.
So if something happened where all of a sudden it worked after you added them as a team member, but it didn't work before, that's a coincidence. It's not a result.
Okay.
Which makes me think that it was more connected to all of a sudden emails started getting through for some reason. But I'm going to ask our dev team to see if we can take a look at logs and see if that insiders at Simply 5 just got the team member invite, because I just resent that team member invite.
Okay, got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, Blue.
Hey, Marty.
Quick comment. 100% what you said makes sense to me. Although one thing Dorita said makes me wonder whether you want to make the distinction between, so communication settings, as I understand it, determine what's available in the drop down as from email addresses, right? So those are the messages you can send from to. However,
that's correct.
If that person is the one writing and sending the email, then they do need to be a team member to have access to broadcast so they can write the message. But having that
Correct.
be a
Yeah.
list. So I just wanted to, that's the only relationship I see between those two.
Yeah, that is correct. So, but they don't have to be in the drop down. So in order to be in the drop down, they don't have to be a team member. But in order to edit or send a broadcast, they also don't need to be on communication settings, right? So you're correct. But they're two different. They're just two completely different things that are just not related to each other. But I could see that being a confusion.
We don't have any more questions. The only thing that was left was Muddy just saying, giving us all a shout out. Oh, and then there's another one. Just kidding. This is how it happens. But thank you, Muddy. We appreciate you. Okay, so this question's from Pam. It says, working with clients, how to best communicate. 1, attendees and speakers should turn your camera on for the best engagement of events. The client wants to advertise, come to our, sorry, I just need to read this for a second so I can make sense of it before I say it out loud. Is that okay?
You're gonna use your inside voice.
Or you can use your outside voice and mute like
Outside
you have.
voice.
That works too, right? You know,
You unmute.
I like
mute
that approach.
and then just yell.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Grant, did you talk about the fact that when people join Zoom from Obvio now, that their names actually appear correctly? Did you share that?
Yeah, we talked about it right up front because Heather had a little issue of it just kind of spinning, and she tried using a different browser and then it worked. And I'm not sure whether the browser was the thing that fixed it or whether just the timing is what helped.
I'll tell you what the problem is, because I had the same issue. It's a pop-up blocker inside Safari. Yeah,
so Heather said the same thing. Heather James said the same thing. But yeah, either way, I mean, we need to look at that because we shouldn't be requesting a pop-up. So
yeah, there is a change though, and we actually have the same problem with the access panel from the dashboard. It does the same thing,
right?
But once you just approve it, then and I think it only is a problem on Safari. It's not a problem on Chrome for some reason. It's a Safari specific issue.
Yeah, I don't want us to have pop-up, requests. We shouldn't need it.
No.
Anyway. Yeah. But yes, we talked about, the naming coming in. We've been doing DMs in this meeting that's working nicely, no reclaim host, like there's lots of lovely things that it's now doing.
Who's update 12090? Is that a Zoom
sorry,
ISO that you have?
that's a Zoom OSC. I just hadn't changed it yet.
No, it's okay. I was just curious.
Okay. Blue, when we did our credit system change, which feels like it's more than a year ago now, right?
It was November, October or November last year.
Okay, so it's not quite a year yet. We also, at that time, did we not have Zoom room limit? The number
We did.
of active rooms?
It wasn't number of active rooms. It was total number of Zoom rooms that were in a Zoom meeting. Could not be more than 10. Now, admittedly, I'm not 100% certain that that limitation was actually coded.
Was
But
enforced,
that
yeah.
was, that was the limit that we had told people. And then we also talked about, because until we actually launched billing in January of 22, there were no limitations, right? Like we didn't have any limitations on the platform. And then when we introduced billing in January of 22, that's when the 10 Zoom rooms per event limit was enabled. And when we moved to the unlimited model, you can actually have more than 10 rooms created now inside of Zoom, but you can only have, or inside your event, which is an upgrade, but you can only have 5 of them active at any one time. So that's the change.
Yeah. So we've got Marlene. Remember founder Marlene? She is now hitting she needs to have 15 rooms open, and it's all a surprise.
Yeah,
She
5 of
hasn't had
them
that.
should not be, because there's always been that limitation, and we can, we can work with her.
Yeah.
Okay, I have the question if you are ready.
You've practiced it.
I'm a little scared about the question, but I am ready.
Okay, so this is the first part. So this is from Pam. Working with clients, how to best communicate. 1, attendees and speakers should turn your camera on for best engagement of events. The client wants to advertise, come to our event. You do not have to be on camera, and you can use a fictitious name for to be anonymous. Maybe a different platform would be better for them.
I mean, maybe not doing events would be better for them. So they can do that, Pam. If that's really what they want to advertise, there's nothing preventing that. Any platform having real names and cameras on, whether you use Zoom or any other platform that allows two-way communication, which there really aren't many that are good, they're going to have better engagement if they turn that all on. But I mean, we have a client who has an event next week that's for like 30,000 people, and he insisted on not asking for first and last names, which I think was really dumb, because now they're like, well, how are we going to know who's who inside of Zoom? It's like, well, dumbass. I told you this when you started opting people into your free event. If you don't ask them what their name is, there's no way for you to tell them, or for you to know what their name is, right? Like, it's like if we were to have met and I never told you what my name was and you never asked me, you would just be saying, hey, you, for the rest of our lives, right? So, you can absolutely do it on Obvio, Pam. It's not that it's another platform would be better for them. And they absolutely can turn their cameras off, right? If you have, like, we have some clients, I've had instances where we had like an event that was primarily folks who were underage, and they didn't want to require first and last names. So they just put in fake names, like they, child 1, child 2, child 3 inside of first and last names. So it's doable inside the platform. But unless there's a reason where people have to remain anonymous, it's a little weird. Yeah, I mean, listen, they can. I don't have so judgment aside, there's nothing inside of Obvio that requires them to turn their camera on or that requires them to give you the correct name, right? So functionally, you can do whatever you want. It's totally cool. So that's a difference between what's technically possible and what, the religious conversation around engagement that opinion that Grant and I have, because we both share that equally.
Well, I guess what I'm looking for is like, what is the best way to communicate that? Because I think they have a good topic, and I know that they want to do an event, but they're like gun shy to share names, turn cameras on. Even some of the speakers don't want to have their camera on. So I'm like, okay. And then they don't want to charge for their event.
So how I would communicate it to them is I would say, listen, you have to think about this like a live event, because Zoom really is a two-way communication platform. If you don't want to host a live event and you would like to host a webinar, then host a webinar, right? And just use a webinar platform and just share screen and keep your camera off. But that's a very different style of event. And if you're thinking about it from a live event perspective, if your speaker isn't going to turn their camera on, think of what it would be like if somebody walked on stage with a paper bag over their head and I know it sounds like I'm trying to be funny, but I'm not. It's the exact same thing. Like, let's put a speaker on stage, put a paper bag over their head. It's going to be like they're Joaquin Phoenix on, the Letterman show 20 years ago, which was really, really weird, right? Because we've seen it done. And you're like, what's going on? Why can't I see you? This is really bizarre. But again, that is not necessarily something that you have to do. A restaurant with the lights off. That's awesome. Yeah. So anyway, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But it is a little bizarre. Dorita, if you're still here, the insiders at simply5.com, from our perspective, the email is going out. So the email that I sent about 15 minutes ago, our dev team was able to find the log of the email being sent. So if it's not being received, there's something going on the inbox side of that insiders at simply5.com.
Yeah, that was a great idea. I emailed that email and it bounced. So I just forwarded it to them to say that they need to check either their settings or because if I can't get an email into them, then it doesn't work. I appreciate that.
And exactly. And our emails won't work either, right? So that's the key for that sending from, like, that communication settings on the organization settings page. You have to have access to an inbox or to the inbox that you're trying to send emails from, or it just won't function. So Pam, I'm not sure if that helped, but technically there's no issue. And then it's just a matter of, what's the philosophy of the event that you're trying to have. And, judgment aside, you can have an anonymous event. It's just a little weird, I think. I said judgment aside, and then I told you it was weird, but whatever, let me try that again. Judgment aside, you can have an anonymous event. Trying really hard to not say it, but it's a little weird.
I agree. I'm trying to do events for other people, and and I have a lot of contacts, but some of them, they just don't get what Avio does. So I'm trying to show them like clips of, some different events that were great events that were done on Avio where, anyway,
So
I don't know
here-
really how to communicate it because these people don't get it.
Let me share the thing that, what are they comparing it to? Are they comparing it to like a live stream?
I think so. Well,
Okay.
they've had live events in the past and they have
Like in
speakers that
person.
are coming all over. In-person live events. I've done in-person live events for them where we've
Mhm.
had like 650, 1,000 people at the events. So
Mhm.
I'm used to doing live events for them, but now they want to go online. They don't want to do and they want to get more people where they're thinking these people don't want to show their face, which I disagree with what their idea is, because I think the Avio platform is fantastic for what they want to do. Because their speakers
So
are from all over
here's,
the country.
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. If I was them, I would simply say, you don't need to, from a marketing perspective, there's no reason to tell people that they don't have to turn on their camera because they're not going to assume that they have to turn on their camera to begin with. That's kind of part number one, right? The other thing is, I would not advertise that the event is hosted on Zoom. I just don't, right? In all of our marketing for any event we have ever done, we never say, come join us for a virtual event in Zoom. Those words never come out of our mouth ever. In fact, the only time we mention Zoom or we've had a client mention Zoom inside of marketing is when it's said in reverse, where it said, this isn't just another Zoom meeting. Okay, that's the only time we, like any of our clients, ever referenced Zoom in the marketing for their virtual events. It's only just a conversation about join us for a virtual event, join us for a virtual event experience, join us for an online event, right? So as long as you don't mention Zoom, there's not you're not going to mention Obvio either. There's not likely anywhere where the client is going to be like, oh man, I don't want to attend that because online event, I'm going to have to turn on my camera. Like that thought process isn't likely to happen in their head, right? And even if it does, everybody knows that they don't need to turn on their camera when they join a meeting, right? Like Muddy, Bez, John, Karen, Dorita all have their camera off right now. We all know that, like, if I didn't want to have my camera on this morning, there we go, done. Like it's nice and easy. Like I think at this point in time, that's a pretty standard known element. So that's how I would have conversations around it. From there, I would be comparing an Obvio based event to like a live stream. And generally speaking, one of the things that we see is significantly higher stick rates for events done on the platform than for like live streams. And what I'll give you some examples. If I take a look at a few of the events that we've done recently that have been large, like over the course of the last year, and I kind of aggregate it all together because I can't give you the specifics on a specific person. But I know on average, because a lot of these clients are doing YouTube as well as Zoom. As well as Obvio. And what we're seeing is the average time on stream on YouTube is between 6 and 8 minutes. And the average time in Zoom for an Obvio event, even for a free event, right, where both people are paying the same amount, is between 40 and 48 minutes. So it's like the stick rate for a Zoom-based event or an Obvio event compared to a live stream, it's insanely different. And there's no distractions. That's part of the reason why the stick rate is so crazy. So there you go.
All right, thanks. That helps.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we don't have any questions in the queue.
I'm on the road, but I've got one more question. I put in chat earlier, but I'm curious around the attendee reports. This occurred to me earlier when Heather was asking about, how do we know who showed up? I know there is attendee reports for the whole event. I know there's attendee reports at the area level and at the room level. Are there attendee reports at the recording level? Basically, can I find out who showed up day one, who showed up day two? Are those separate reports, or would I need to create separate rooms each?
Yeah, the way it stands currently, Muddy, you cannot. But we are really close to releasing a second export that includes some different data inside of those exports for rooms and areas. And what it amounts to is when you go to export attendees from the rooms or the areas page, you're going to get a drop down. And you're going to have two options. One is the option that you currently have, which is like the standard, the standard export that includes the number of joins and the duration in Zoom across all those joins. And then another one is going to be a more detailed export, like a detailed Zoom export. And what that will do is that will give you a line item for each time an attendee joined Zoom. And it'll include the join time, the leave time, and the total duration within Zoom. And if I join Zoom as an example, 5 times over the course of a 3-day event, I'll have 5 entries within that export. That will give you the information you're looking for. So we're awfully close to being able to export that outside of Zoom, or outside of Obvio, sorry.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions, Heather?
None that are in right now.
Sweet. All right, guys. Thanks for an awesome morning. Grant, great hanging out with you as always.
As always.
As
We've actually been quite kind to each other on this
today.
Yeah.
Well,
There's
you're
still
not in my
time.
mind. I'm still thinking weird things.
Nice. Well, thank you,
Karen, we're
everyone.
glad you could make it as well. Yeah, thanks for joining us. This has been awesome. When's our next call?
It's next
It'll be
Wednesday.
next 5 p.m. Eastern.
Well done.
Sorry, Grant. I didn't want you saying Australian time.
No. Yep.
Repeat that, please.
It's next Thursday at 6:30 a.m. Australian time.
He's already he's messing it up already. Good luck with that. It's next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
There you go.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, listen, as always, you guys, everybody on this call knows where to reach us, but just in case, help@obv.io is the support email address. You can also talk to Heather, James, Chuck, myself, Grant in the chat inside the application between 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then also you can post questions in the Facebook group. And the Facebook group is awesome, especially after hours or on weekends, because not only do we monitor it, but so do other users. So it's a great place to get support as well. With that, we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. Eastern, Wednesday. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.